So last year, I read 103 books, as I've talked about previously. So I figured, even though it's a little late, it is February, I should rank, or at least talk about, what I consider the five best books I read in 2024. Now, this is going to be in no particular order. It's kind of just the first five I thought of. With 103 to parse through, it was a little difficult. So I do have a couple, literally just two honorable mentions before we get started. So the first honorable mention is all three parts of the Divine Comedy by Dante. I really enjoyed that. I'm really glad I can actually finally say I read it. The translation I had was, I feel personally, really good. I never really felt confused. And if I did feel confused, the translation did a very good job of explaining to me what I was confused about and why. But the other book is We Have Always Lived in This Castle by Shirley Jackson. Now that book, something about that book, the feeling of isolation and paranoia and maybe I don't know, just that general feeling that the whole world is out to get you, but also on the outside looking in, you kind of realize it's your fault you feel that way. Good, great book. I loved that book so much, so much. So let's start in the actual top five. Again, this is in no particular order. These are just the books I liked. I feel like they had the biggest impact on me, either from a wow, this really stuck out in my memory, or from a wow, I feel like reading this actually made me kind of grow as a person sort of way. So first, this one just was good. We got Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. I assume that's how you say that. As I said last time, horrible with names, sorry. This is such a good horror book or thriller, whatever you want to call it. I have never read a book where all 200 so pages, I felt like I had to look over my shoulder. This book legit just made me feel like somebody was watching me the whole time. It's so good. It's so haunting, but at the same time, it's kind of I wouldn't say super realistic. It's got a few, but it's also not highly paranormal. But it just feels. It has a way of creeping into the back of your spine and in the back of your head and making you think, huh. Very good. Super good. Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. Really good. Originally a Reddit story, I believe. But I think the published version has a few more scenes. I think. I don't know exactly what the difference is. This is my assumption. And you know what they say about assumptions. Next. Moby Dick by Herman Melville. First, before I even start talking about the book, this edition of the book by Chiltern sucked. It's heavy it's super heavy. It's see that? I don't like that. Bad. Don't buy this version of the book. Buy a better version. You can probably find a used one at any used bookstore. But Moby Dick, the book itself, super good. When I was reading it, this book legitimately felt like torture. I was never excited to sit down and say, oh, time to read Moby Dick. No, I always dreaded reading Moby Dick. But once I finished Moby Dick, I don't know, something clicked. It weaseled its way into my brain, and I realized oh my gosh, that was really good. That was super good. And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and talk about, revenge is stinky or any of that stuff, because I don't care. You know what Moby Dick's about. It's just a good, I don't know, a good period piece, I guess is a weird way to call it. I feel like I learned more about whaling in this book and gained an interest in whaling because of this book than probably anything else could have done. Very good. It is a horrible uphill battle, in my opinion, but I feel like the summit is worth it. Very much worth it. All right, next, a little lighter fare. We've got The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. Now, I really love both of the Kingkiller books that are out right now, and probably the only two Kingkiller books that are going to be out right now. Come on, get on it, Rothfuss. I want that third one. But this book, kind of a side, a spin-off, I guess you'd call it, about Ori or Auri, or however you're supposed to describe it. But this felt very good. I said, I use this word a lot, dreamlike. This felt very unreal, kind of floaty in a way, very autism coded, which is a weird way to put it, because the main character, like, she's got all these routines and like certain things she knows she can't do, even though she can't really articulate why. It just doesn't really like feel good. And like certain things she can do, and she just knows, like, I don't know. It felt very much like autism brain in a way. Not that I am, so I have no reason to talk, but it resonated with me in a way. Very good. I don't really even think you'd have to read the other two King Killer books to totally understand what's happening here. I feel like this is a pretty self-contained little story. Again, very good, very short. I don't even think, yeah, it's like barely 100 pages. Yeah, 147 pages. This copy at least. Yeah, very good. Very fun. Very, my favorite word, dreamlike. Next, we've got the only, one of the few I very rarely read nonfiction, but here we have Tove Jansson, Life, Art, Words by Boyle Weston, translated by Sylvester Mazzarella. Sorry if I said your name wrong. There's just something about, I've always liked Moomin, the Moomins, the show. It's cute, it's fun. I even have a few Moomin books in my TBR file this year to finally actually read the books because of this. I will say you should probably read the Moomin books before you read this, because it unquestionably spoils the plot of every single one of them. Not like the Moomin books are all that deep, but like, some about this, if you are a creative in any way, if you like to draw, write, paint, sculpt, I don't know, even graffiti probably, something, if you want to create, if you like to put things out into the world from the inside of your brain, I feel like this is an important book to read, because this woman, Tove Jansson, this woman is truly, in my opinion, the epitome of like struggling artist in a way. Even though she had this big Moomin, thing, like she hated Moomin, according to this book. Like Moomin was a kind of a shackle to her in a way, which I think is very interesting. It's a good read. She had a very interesting life, and again, if you are in any sort of way fancy yourself a creative, or even a pseudo-creative, this is so good. So good. And also introduced me to a bunch of her books that aren't Moomin that I'm going to check out. Then finally, number 5, I legitimately think this was probably the most important book to me that I read last year, which is kind of funny when you see what it is. It's Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery, a literal children's book from Canada. The weird thing about this book is, I feel like this book was like the final little puzzle piece I needed for my frontal lobe to develop, which is a really weird way to describe a book, especially, a children's book from Canada. But something about Anne's, like, her constant good outlook and her, never say never attitude. I don't know. Something about the way Anne lives her life, to me, the time when I read this, was very admirable. There's a quote in this book that I did write down. I don't have it with me because I'm stupid and I don't prepare. But essentially it said something like, along the lines of like, why spoil tomorrow with the badness of today? Which I feel like is a very good, essentially it was just saying like, leave whatever happened yesterday behind. Which is such an easy thought, I suppose. But I don't know. It's kind of nice to just see it. You see things like that written out, and it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Am I that dumb? But this book, again, children's book, Anne of Green Gables, great, a classic. Again, a period piece in a way, just because of, it was written contemporary at the time. Very good. Anne is a very lovable character. Anne Shirley's so nice. I don't know if I'll ever read any of the other ones, because I don't know if they'll have the same magic as this one, but I really liked this. This really did. I feel like it's, again, I hate to say it because it feels kind of dumb, but I really do feel like this kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of was a little like torchlight that led me to some self-growth. But yeah, there you go. Again, I read 103 books. Those are just my personal 5 favorite out of all of those. And I'm still reading this year. still going to keep reading, and I'll see you guys soon enough. Keep reading.